Reading is one of those things that when you first start out, it feels like ass. But when you continue reading, the more addicted you get to learning. I know, weird, right? And believe it or not, I didn't read a single book, not a single book, until I was 21 years old. I even finished my school without reading a single book from cover to cover. I don't know how I did it, but I still did it somehow. But my thought about books was always that they just suck, they are boring, so why wouldn't you watch a movie or a series about the topic, because it just condenses the information to a readable format, to an understandable format. And I continued to hear from my mom and my friends and everybody who was intelligent that the more you read, the more addicted you get to learning, and then you just start to enjoy it. But when I did it, I just fucking hated it. I just couldn't flip five pages was painful for me. I just couldn't focus for 5 pages. And I always threw the book away because I wanted to do something else. But against all odds, when I was 21, I finally found a book, an interesting topic that I would like to read for the first time. But it wasn't me who initiated the reading, but it was actually my friend. Because my friend was making a lot of money, a lot of money to my own standards, like 10k a month, and I was like, holy fuck, you are rich. And he was doing these different side hustles, and he was starting to read about investing, and he told me that the first ever book he read about money was The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clason. And at the time he was reading about investing, and he told me that you should read this book called Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham, and I actually have it right there. And those 2 books were the first ever books that I read, and it came from the belief that I wanted to make more money because I was so broke and I was so tired of just living like a brokey, and I just wanted to get rid of that feeling, and he was the one who influenced me to read my first ever book. But did I get any richer? No, I didn't. Have I still got any richer? No, I have not. But ever since that point, I haven't stopped reading. And that was the point that really pivoted my wanting to learn more. And who would have thought, not me, that I was the guy who did not want to read, who hated reading. And now all I do is read books. And I'm going to tell you that from experience, reading is one of those skills that will level up your life to a whole nother level that you didn't even realize there is this potential within you. So the simple and the only question is, how do you start enjoying reading? Because that was my question all along for all of those years, that I didn't enjoy reading, I didn't want to read. And it was the only single thing that didn't really click at the time. Because all of those books that I tried to read, would it be from school or from other people that recommended me these books, but I just read them and I was like, what the fuck is this? I didn't want to read them. I was like, why would I read this piece of shit book about some dragons or something? I was like, why shouldn't I watch a movie? But then as I started to notice these patterns that people read to their problems, to fix their problems, and they want to read because they love reading. And I was like, why do they love reading? And that was all of the answers was right in front of my nose. And it's this very thing that you have to love what you read. But it's not necessarily about the books that you love to read, but it's about a topic that you are interested in that also solves a problem that you currently have. So for simplicity's sake, let's say that you like music, and then your friend tells you to watch some history books and read them. Why should you read history books? Because you are not interested in history, you are interested in music. But maybe you love music, but you don't love to read. But then you should read in a way that solves a problem. So maybe you don't know about compression, or you don't know how to sing, or maybe you don't know how to play piano. But then you start to read because you enjoy making music. But reading is also one of those things that when you read and you implement that learning and that reading, then you start to become better and better and better. And then you start to revisit that book all the time, and then you start to love learning because all of those things in that book said to do this, so you can get this outcome, and then you just practice it, and then you want to learn more. But then another question is, where do you find such books that solve a problem and are interesting to you? And there is this easy answer called Google, because you can always go on Google and just search a topic that you're interested in, and then just cross-reference some information. Then you would type music plus best books, and then you would just list 10 different websites and all of their lists. Then you just cross-reference those results, and then you find 1 or 2 books that is recommended the most, and then you buy that book, because then you know that all of these websites are promoting this one book, and then you should read it because it gives you the most value and it most likely will solve you a problem in your field of topic. But then let's say you have now bought the book, but how do you keep yourself engaged reading that book? So if you haven't ever read a book, you always have a fresh start. So you have a base limit, and everybody has their limit. So don't be too hard on yourself if you cannot read for more than 1 chapter, because that's what I did, because I couldn't read for 5 more pages. But what really helped me was to set a certain limit that I just wanted to read 1 chapter and that was it. I didn't want to read anymore because I couldn't. But over time you developed that capacity for you to read more. But also I recommend that you find a pen or a highlighter, so you can just underline or highlight the most important parts of the book, because when you underline or highlight those most important things, then you start to understand that this is now the most important thing of this whole chapter. And then when you once revisit the whole information, you don't have to read all the stories again. You just find the main point, and then you start to actively remember that, okay, this was about that topic and this is how you implement it. And I did a whole nother video how to read efficiently. So if you want to check that after this video, just click here. But remember that it's just 1 chapter and 1 page at a time, because I was lazy and I was so hard on myself that I made it a challenge, a bad challenge in a way, for me to just push myself all the time, and I couldn't remember anything. But when I made it fun and I made it a fun challenge for me to just push my boundaries, that maybe today I can read 6 pages instead of 5, and the next time I was reading 7 pages, and then you just made into this fun challenge and I made it fun for myself. So I was then more actively engaged in reading instead of me like, fuck, I need to read, like, oh. But let's say you have now started to read and you are now actively reading, but now you haven't eliminated all of your distractions, because you know that when you are distracted and your phone goes off or someone yells at you, you just snap out of your focus and you're like, what? It takes so much for your mental capabilities to go back into that flow state and for you to really dig deep again to that reading. So what you need to do is, for you to maximize your reading capabilities, is for you to turn off your phone, just be somewhere that doesn't allow you to be near some distractions. Let's say that you are in front of the TV and you are just craving to watch Netflix. Then it's obviously very easy for you to just leave that book be, and then you just open up your TV and then you just start to chill. But as over time you start to love reading, you can be anywhere. You could be amongst very loud people and you would still get into that flow state. But in the beginning it's so difficult for you to be in this focus state, because all you want to do is not read. But when you just actively focus for 25 minutes, that's all it takes at first, just 25 minutes. You read and you just focus and you give it yourself all. You give it your all and you make it a fun challenge. Then you can just do whatever you want, because 25 minutes is, I found, optimal when I was at that stage that I didn't want to read. 25 minutes was everything that I just got myself into this reading state, and it's more likely that you can read and you want to read more than 25 minutes, because when you get into that flow state, you don't want to break that flow state, so you want to learn more. And this brings me to the last point, that it creates a snowballing effect when you start to read. Because first you hate reading, then you start reading about a problem and topic that is interesting to you, and then you're like, yeah, I kind of liked it, I learned something new, and then you implement it, and then you notice that I got a lot of things done. Then you want to learn more, and then you start purchasing more books, then you start to read again, and you want to learn and read and learn and read. It's just, it creates this amazing snowball effect. But that's the whole point, that the beginning is always the hardest. So give yourself the 25 minutes every day, just 25 minutes or 1 chapter. That's all what it takes, because everything big has started somewhere very small, and that's where I was. How long was it? It's 6 years ago since I first read my first ever book. Like, it was such a challenge for me, and this is what I want you to really implement. Like, I want you to try that. Just purchase 1 book that is interesting to you and it solves a problem. It could be in music, it could be in business, it could be in social skills, and then you just start reading. And use these tips in this video for you to just start loving to read. Like, it's so wonderful for you to be able to read, and you could read this, you could read this, you could read this, like you could read so many books because you just start to love learning, and it's such a wonderful skill. And every intelligent and every successful person tells you that they love to read. So why wouldn't you read? Because it will not only solve your problems, but you will start to love learning. And when you start to love learning, you will start to implement those things to elevate your life to a whole nother level. And this is why you need to subscribe to this YouTube channel, because we are here to cultivate strength through difficulty. And when you first take out that book, it feels like living hell. But when you overcome that difficulty, you have not only gained physical strength, but mental strength. And this is why I give you free and valuable advice to your everyday living, to your every area of your life, so you can tackle those difficulties everywhere. But if you are currently facing addiction with social media and you want to get more addicted to learning, then watch this video. I don't know which side is it on. But you have to always remember, would it be a good day or a bad day? You are the diamond in your life.